Hello and a warm welcome to Saints Live. I'm Kenzie Benali.
And I'm Steve Forbes.
Well, can Southampton extend their winning run to 4 matches? Nathan Jones will certainly be hopeful that they can as we welcome Aston Villa to St Mary's Stadium this afternoon. We also welcome former Saints captain Dean Hammond and Premier League reporter Paul Belverstone to the show. Lovely to see you both. Great to have you with us. Belvers, we often see you milling about in the press room, but it's nice to have you joining us in person on the show.
I hope it's going to be a lot better than the last time I was here, the Forest game. I was here for the Brighton game as well, but since then things have turned around a lot, haven't they? So yes, I'm looking forward to the press room food after we've done this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the Saints win today, please.
Most definitely. Dean, you looking forward to the match ahead?
I am, and it's lovely to be back at St Mary's, and the sun always seems to be out when we're doing a live show, so that's a good omen. But yeah, excited about today. I think the team over the last few weeks has given us some real hope. So looking forward to the game and looking forward to potential 3 points for Southampton.
Good stuff. Well, it's great to see you both. Now, the team news is coming up in around about 15 minutes' time. There's no fresh injury concerns that we're aware of. So, Dean, with that, do you think Nathan Jones will name the same starting 11 that beat Everton, or do you think there's going to be some changes?
If I'm honest, Steve, I'm not sure. I think Nathan has shown that he likes to rotate the team and rotate the squad. What I think we will see is that the shape staying the same. I think he's settled for that 4-2-3-1. I think that's worked over the last 2 weeks, especially against Manchester City and Everton last week. I think the back four looks solid. Looks like they've built some relationships there, which has helped. Really helped. There's been some good individual performances, but collectively they'll be good as well. I thought the 2 holding midfield players were good last week away at Everton, and I hope they continue together and continue to play together, because that allows James Ward-Prowse to be further up the field, and what we've seen from him in the last few weeks has been exceptional. I didn't know he could play that role as well as he is, but he's flourishing there, and that's credit to the manager. And then it's what Nathan does. You know, you've had Shea Adams, who's had a real impact last week against Everton with 2 assists. And then you have Mara the week before against Man City, who comes on and scores and looks like the player that Southampton would have hoped. Adozi's getting better and better, but Adam Armstrong has been effective on that left-hand side as well. And then you have Gineppo, who scored a wonderful goal against Man City, but then was left out for Elyounoussi away at Everton. So there's options for Nathan, there really is. So I think the back four will be the same. The 2 holding midfield players, James Ward-Prowse picks himself. And then it could be a combination of any. So I'm looking forward to see what Nathan goes today and what approach he takes.
Absolutely. Belvis, how do you expect Saints to line up this afternoon?
Be surprised to see them unchanged. I think Nathan Jones is being a little bit coy in terms of his injury updates. You know, there are 4 players. I don't think we're likely to see any of them come into the starting lineup. Tino Livramento, we know, has had a setback. We've got Juan Larios still out as well. Alex McCarthy, Theo Walcott, they could perhaps come into the squad, but as far as starting 11 goes, I think Samuel Edozie against Ashley Young excites me today. That they only had a 5 or 6 minute battle up at Villa Park, and Young had to take him out of the game for a while and picked up a yellow card for it because he really didn't enjoy Edozie running at him. I think there's a bit of criticism about his final ball. He's only 19, 20 years old, so the only way he's going to improve is keep training, of course, but also in environments and in matches like this, where if he picks up an assist or a goal, it's just going to multiply his progression. Moye Elyounoussi seems to be one of those players that managers appreciate more than fans, perhaps. So the one player I'd like to see maybe coming in, if there is going to be a change in those positions, Mislav Orsic, because we know he's got pedigree against Premier League teams. He's scored against West Ham, Chelsea, Spurs in European competitions. He's also scored against Unai Emery's Villarreal 18 months ago or so, and I think he's an exciting signing, and as soon as he is up to speed and starting every week, I think he's going to cause opponents problems.
Well, before we move on any further, let's have a little look back at last week's terrific win at Goodison Park.
This is the most important game of the Premier League this afternoon. It's Everton against Southampton. Now, Edozie gets it off Walker-Peters, left-hand corner of the penalty, skips inside, just outside the box. That's a good ball square though. Ward-Prowse helps it on, then to Elyounoussi, drills it, deflects, and it goes over Adams, who nearly tried to handle it into the net, a la Wolves. It's a corner to Everton on the right. Gray again hangs it towards the penalty spot, header down, and Everton have the lead, and Onana has scored the goal. And Goodison Park erupts, and then Everton have robbed Saints in their own half again. Lavia caught by Idrissa Gueye. Iwobi inside left, curls it just wide. It's a good ball from Shea Adams. Adozie chases, early ball into Ward-Prowse. First time shot off the post from Pickford's hand. It's a great save from the Everton and England keeper, and it's denied his England colleague James Ward-Prowse. Long ball forward from Walker-Peters from the right. Lovely touchdown for the captain. He gets a second chance, and James Ward-Prowse this time takes it. He sends Pickford the wrong way, and immediately in the start of the second half, within a minute of the start of the second half, James Ward-Prowse has his 4th goal in 6 games, and then it's given away. It's given away by Diallo in his own half. Here's Calvert-Lewin, pulls the shot, deflected off the crossbar, and down again. And the referee checks his watch. It's no goal. Iwobi on this left-hand side. Onana will cross. Bazunu will come. He doesn't gather it. Has it gone in? It's gone wide. It looked to half the people in this stand at us like it had gone in the net. It's 7 or 8 yards outside the box to the left, about 28 yards. Right-footed, and it's in. And Pickford didn't move an inch. And James Ward-Prowse has done it again. An absolutely wonderful, wonderful direct free kick. Bazunu clears. John Brooks puts the whistle to his mouth. That is it. Boos from the Blues, cheers from the Reds.
Well, Dean, you spoke about James Ward-Prowse after the game last week and his influence further up the pitch. Just how much is he thriving in that role?
He's excelling, Kenzie. He's been absolutely brilliant. We saw last week with the 2 goals that he scored. I mean, the first goal was an exceptional finish, but the moments in the first half as well. What James seems to have in those moments is real composure, and he makes the right decision. You know, with the strike there, he knows that he has to hit that first time, and he gets it on target. It's a really, really good save. But, you know, the movement here and the first touch is exceptional. And then the second touch to kind of go round the Everton player and the way he just slots it home, he looks like he's been scoring 20 goals a season for the last 5 seasons. So he looks like a natural finisher. And maybe Nathan's seen that and thinks, I need to get him in more goal-scoring opportunities because he's our biggest threat. The free kick, we know all about Prowse's free kick. He's got exceptional ability, but he's been brilliant and he's led the way over the last few weeks, on and off the ball. His work rate, his passion, his energy and his quality. It's never been doubted, and he's just a brilliant player, and I think he looks like he's really enjoying that role. Players love scoring goals, and he'll love scoring goals, but he's scoring goals from open play now, which we all wanted him to add to his game. But he looks brilliant. He really, really does. And like I say, credit to the manager, credit to Prowse for taking that on, and he's leading by example again, and that's why he's captain. So long may it continue.
Now, before we have a look at Prowse's second goal, we want to rewind back to a similar free kick he had against Nottingham Forest a few weeks ago. So here you can see that Nottingham Forest put a player onto the line, and it almost, you know, maybe puts Prowse off a little bit here, Paul. Now, Everton tried to do it as well, but the player didn't quite get back in time and, you know, almost made Pickford look a bit silly.
Yeah, and I think the difference is that Morgan Gibbs-White turns, sprints to that back post, gets there, and that was the first time I think we'd seen that, and that probably did put a little bit of doubt into Prowse's mind. Mikalenko is sort of backpedalling. He had 3 or 4 yard head start on Morgan Gibbs-White, and yet he's still got nowhere near it. He also went later, so Prowse had already started his run-up, and I would be staggered if after the Forest game, Prowse himself, the coaching team and everyone hadn't spoken about it at great length and say, look, other teams are going to do this to us now, what are you going to do? I think there are many times when Prowse will still have a look for that postage stamp where it grazes the underside of the bar and the inside of the post, because defenders, it's sort of counterintuitive. You don't want to jump up at that time and smack your head on the bar, and he's very confident of hitting that spot. But also, I don't know if we can show it again, when in both occasions Southampton have 4 players. By the time Prowse strikes the ball, there are 4 Southampton players on the edge of the 6 yard box. Now, he is cute and clever enough to run up to the ball as if he's going to strike it as a normal free kick, but then thread a ball through. This one again, he started a bit later because Mikalenko went later, and there were again those 4 players. This time a little dink over the top might have given a free header, but yes, the defender did make Jordan Pickford look a bit silly. I think Pickford makes himself look silly as well because he's concentrating on the defender. That ball is not in that postage stamp space, I said, because Prowse realised what he could do, and Pickford is flat-footed, doesn't move. I think if teams continue to do that to him, which I expect them to do, I think Prowse now has options. He can still look for the top corner, but also his teammates will be ready for a little dink or a little through ball to have a nice little 3-yard tap in.
I think it's only right that we shine a spotlight as well on Che Adams. Dean, I'd love to get your thoughts on his role in creating both goals.
Excellent. He probably would have been disappointed to not play against Man City, but then to come back into the team at Everton. Look, I'm a huge fan of Che. I've obviously played with him, so I know how good he is. He's getting better and better. I think he's 26 of age, 26 now, so he's coming towards his prime. But the first goal was brilliant. It's his unselfish movement to run in behind, but then his awareness of Prowse's run, and that's a really good cushion header for Prowse. He's right into his path, he doesn't have to change stride, and that creates the goal, or creates the opportunity, and then it's down to the ability of Prowse to score. But Che works tirelessly for the team, and he does a lot of stuff that is unseen, really. He holds the ball up well, he presses from the front, so he starts that defensive work for the team. The second goal, he anticipates the second ball there, almost like a midfield player. He runs and he gets the ball first, but what he does really, really well, he uses his body, and he's very good at doing that, and he's so strong, really strong. He's got that lower body strength, really big legs, and he knows Gordon's coming there, just thinks, I could win a free kick here for Prowse. I'm sure that's in his mind, because I think Adam on the show mentioned it last week. Prowse having free kicks in that range is almost like a penalty, because he is so good from that range and that distance, as we see from his execution. But the celebration as well from all the Southampton players, but Che as well. He plays a huge part in this team, and we'd all love him to score more goals, because he does get into goal scoring opportunities and he does get chances. Most of the time hits the target, but you're just looking, maybe sometimes lacks that little bit of belief, but he scores some fantastic goals as well. So I think there's improvement in him, but he does such a brilliant job for the team.
Now, before we carry on the chat any further, gentlemen, we'll get a quick word from the fans watching at home. So people getting in touch online. We have Dan C on YouTube, who said, come on Saints, he's thinking it's going to be a 3-0 win today, and he'll be watching from Toronto, Canada. Come on the Red and White Army. Also Stephen Coulson watching on YouTube says he'll be staying up for this one in Brisbane, Australia, on a positive run, tough opposition, but we can win this. Concentrate for 90 minutes and ours is for the taking. 2-1 he's predicting. Alex Phillips says, come on Saints, he's watching from the stadium today. Saints Rob says, come on you Saints, show us that ruthless aggression again. And then a last one here on Facebook from Cameron Ward, who says, come on you Reds, actually excited for this one. He thinks it's going to be a 2-0 win with James Ward-Prowse and Kyle Walker-Peters scoring.
Oh, well, that leads us rather nicely onto our next topic. Belvers, let's talk Kyle Walker-Peters, shall we? He's due to make his 100th Premier League appearance today. What have you made of the way he's progressed since joining from Tottenham?
I'm a big fan. I thought he was criminally underused at Tottenham. I think it's quite funny. You see a lot of Spurs fans on social media and on their fan sites urging the club to try and get him back, and that's even though they've got so many wing backs themselves. They've got 3 in the right side, 2 on the left. But he is fantastic. He causes problems at both ends of the pitch for the opposition. He can cross the ball, he can dribble, he can tackle. He's got absolutely everything in that position, and he's a really nice guy too. He's only 25 years old, and yet he's already a senior pro in that dressing room. He's often the poor guy wheeled out after a disappointing performance to talk to us media parasites and try and explain what went wrong, and that was the case last time I was here actually against Forest. And I really felt for him that day, because I was going to say he gives absolutely everything in every game. That's the least you should expect from a player when you're watching, in my opinion. But he has got great engine, great feet. He's got a great attitude. And after that Forest game, he was one of the ones apparently who stood up in the dressing room, gave a few home truths. And like I say, that's 25 years old. I think he's a tremendous talent, a great personality. He's got absolutely everything you want, and the fact that he can play equally as well on the left and the right, he's so good. If you had a team of 11 KWPs, you'd be in for great entertainment. All the fans would really enjoy watching that team play. You'd win far more than you'd lose, without a shadow.
He's a fantastic player, isn't he? Well, the moment we've all been waiting for, the team news. We always love breaking this live on the show. Hot off the press, here it is then. Just the one change from last week. Adam Armstrong coming in for Moi Elyounoussi. So let's take a look through the team news in full then, shall we? In goal, it's Gavin Bazunu. In defence and making his 100th Premier League appearance, as we've said, is Carl Walker-Peters. Alongside him, Mohamed Salisu, Duje Shaleta-Sarr, and completing the back four is Lianco. Looking to the middle of the park then, it's Ibrahima Diallo, Romeo Lavia, Sam Edozie and our captain James Ward-Prowse, with Shay Adams and Adam Armstrong leading the line for the Saints. The Saints substitutes then are as follows: Willie Caballero, Roman Perro, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Musa Gineppo, Charlie Alcaraz, Moi Elyounoussi, Joe Aribo, Mislav Orsic and Sekou Mara. Dean, let's come to you then for your thoughts on that starting 11 today.
Excited. Again, the balance of the team looks very, very good. The formation, I would suggest, is the same, just with that one change with Adam Armstrong coming in, who gives you that little bit more of an attacking threat, that bit more pace in the team. Very, very quick player. I think his form is improving. Be interesting to see if he plays on the left or he plays on the right. But I think with Edozie, they can swap over, they can change positions. So that's a bonus. But yeah, I think a good selection from Nathan, and consistency in the team selection, and that's come from the players performing very, very well last week at Everton, and getting a valuable 3 points. And I'm sure he'll want for them to continue that form and the performance they showed, especially in the second half. They were a real threat against Everton. Looked like they played like a team. And what I enjoyed last week as well, the way they worked for each other. Second balls they won, they covered ground for each other. There was passion in their desire, and they wanted to win the game. So if they can continue that today with that little bit of quality, with the attacking players that are in the team, I think this could be a good day for Southampton.
Yeah, well, we certainly hope it's going to be a good day, Valvers. What do you make of this starting 11 to take on Aston Villa?
Yeah, very happy. I wouldn't have changed too much there. I don't think I'd have changed anything. I think the fact that there are options on the pitch in that starting 11, like Dean said, a couple of players who can switch sides through the game, you can cause a lot of different problems for the opposition that way, and there are options on the bench. You know, we haven't seen that from a Southampton side for what feels like a long time, but I think that's a starting 11 that can cause Aston Villa terrific problems today. And the manager can look behind him and think, right, well, actually, I'm just going to tweak here and change there during the game and from his bench as well. So, yeah, very, very confident still going into this one.
Now, Lianco keeps his place in the team again, Dean, and in the 7 matches since the Premier League restart, he's only missed 6 minutes of action. Before the World Cup, he only started 2 games this season, so clearly Nathan Jones has taken a shine to him. It
looks like that, Steve, and his performances have been good. What you get from Lianco is you know what you're going to get, and I think during that period, Nathan needed players that were reliable, that he knew what performances they were going to put in. Lianco is very, very committed. Can he overstep the mark at times? Yes, of course, but I think you need that within your team. He's a brilliant defender. He's shown in moments that he's got real ability on the ball as well. You know, his assist for Mara, it's a brilliant cross. It really, really is. So he gets himself forward. So he's not just that defender that's going to sit in. When you're against or trying to defend the lead, he will throw his head in, he will tackle, he will block. He gets the crowd going, it builds an atmosphere. He's been brilliant, and I think Nathan will see a lot in Lianco that he saw as himself in a player. Nathan was like that, very emotional, very passionate, played to the crowd like Lianco does. So I'm sure they've built a bit of a connection. And he's a winner as well. Real, you know, he wants to win every ball. He wants to score when he goes up from set pieces. He wants to be the one that wins the first header when he's defending. So you need players like that. I'm sure if you asked him, he'd want to play centre half. But he's probably enjoying playing at right back. And with him playing at right back, you've got 3 centre halves there, naturally. And then Carl Walker-Peters can go a little bit further forward. He can commit a little bit more. He can take a bit of more risk because you have 3 defenders there who are going to sit and have got a foundation when Southampton potentially get countered on. So it seems to be working, and that balance has worked, and long may it continue.
Now, Paul, when we met Villa earlier in the season at Villa Park, it was a 1-0 defeat, something you said that was difficult to watch, so we thought we'd make you watch it again. What did Saints do wrong that night, and how can they rectify that today?
Right. You're making me go through this again. It was, I mean, look, everyone watching this knows that this is a club channel and we try to find positives wherever we can. This was a struggle. This day, it was not a good one. I think Southampton had set up to try not to lose. You know, the manager was working with a very young group and he wasn't confident he could get his ideas across. And I remember this goal as well. Initially, Gavin Bazunu, you thought, well, that's a good reaction save, but actually, did he need to be a bit stronger, push it over the bar? I think that would happen when he's got a couple more seasons in his gloves. Still don't really understand why it wasn't offside when Jacob Ramsey was clearly offside initially when the ball came over. But, you know, thankfully the authorities have completely cleared up the offside law now, haven't they? There's never any debate about what goes on. The big problem this day was that the ball just wasn't, if it was going up the pitch, which it wasn't very often, it certainly wasn't sticking. There was no clear creativity. I mean, I feel for our colleagues who had to sit through this again and try and find highlights to put together, because as we've just seen, there really weren't very many, if any at all. This was one of those days that is best forgotten. Why you have brought it up, I am lost. I don't understand. It's put me in a bad mood just watching those bits again. I was on a high. I was confident. I was going to predict a 6-0 win later on. Now, watching that, feel a bit flat. That is not how Nathan Jones's side will play. I understand some of the reasoning behind it perhaps back then, but it was not a pretty watch. Best forgotten. Can't wait to forget it again.
Well, hopefully our next VT can restore a bit more positivity back into you, because our home game against Villa last season was thankfully more positive, with Adam Armstrong's 3rd minute strike being the winner. Dean, what were your reflections on that game?
Well, much more positive than Paul in the previous game. A good result for Southampton. A brilliant goal from Adam Armstrong, who hadn't scored for a while after he'd set his Southampton crew on fire with that goal at Everton. This is a brilliant strike, and this is why I think Adam Armstrong can score more goals, because he looks like a natural finisher. That is an instinctive finish with his wrong foot, strikes it so true, and it was a great start to the game. And if I remember rightly, Southampton started with a really high tempo, pressed Aston Villa. I think this was Dean Smith's last game before he got sacked as well. There's opportunities for Stuart Armstrong. I think he needs to do a little bit better, which would have put Southampton 2-0 up. But it was a game where Martinez in the Aston Villa goal made some really good saves, where Southampton created a lot during the game. But at 1-0 it was always tight. Aston Villa were always in the game, and they came on a little bit stronger in the second half. A couple of good saves from McCarthy. But it was a performance from Southampton where they were the better team than Aston Villa, and they showed that on the night without being exceptional, I would say. Southampton at the time were coming through, I think they were back-to-back victories as well, so we're in a good position in the league, and hopefully we can get another result like that today, where the Southampton players believe in themselves, they take the game to Aston Villa, and they can get the 3 points again. I think today, if we can get 3 points after the victory last week, the mood is changing already, but I think it can change even more. I think that there's a sense of the positivity creeping back in, which we all love. And if that atmosphere can be created today by the fans, by the players, and we can get 3 points as well, onwards and upwards.
Well, let's see what the mood's like online now, and if the Saints fans watching are a bit more positive than you, Paul. We have Nasser Khalid on YouTube. He said he's watching from Istanbul with love. He's got an exam straight after the game, so let's get a win. Well, good luck for your exam there, Nasser. Also, St. Rob says, come on, you Saints. Gail Sampson on Facebook says, come on, the Saints. Let's move out of the relegation zone with 3 points today. Also, Trish Sykes, come on, lads. You can do this. Keep us proud. Mark Pollard says he thinks it's going to be a 2-0 win today. Also on YouTube we have Seton Gully, who says we're improving game on game at the moment. Roll on. He thinks it's going to be a 2-1 win. And Ryan Ackland says good luck Saints today. Now, Paul, wanted to get your thoughts on the transfer market. Nathan Jones says he wants to bring a couple of more signings of quality in. Now, we've already added Mislav Orsic and Charlie Alcaraz. Which areas do you think could be improved upon?
They've been linked with players in every position. I find it quite a surprise, the number of right backs, for example, that have been linked with the club. I think every one of the 32,000 coming here today would like to see a new striker come in, ideally. A proven striker, someone who can bring goals straight away. They are notoriously difficult to find in any transfer window let alone January, and especially now the 9 subs rule means that clubs are far less keen than they ever were at this time of year to let players go, because they always want that bench filled. So yes, we'd like a striker, as much as Shea Adams gives his all, can come up with goals every now and then, and Sekou Mara has clearly been signed with great potential in mind, and that goal against Man City, Dean mentioned it earlier, what a wonderful strike that was. Still, another striker would be good to take the current responsibility or burden away from Prowse, because he's not going to keep chipping in with a goal or two every week. But more than looking at positions of needing to strengthen, I think it's more sort of characteristics. I think it's a very young squad at the moment. I mentioned with Kyle Walker-Peters being a senior pro and he's only 25, I think if they could bring in a bit more leadership, character, personality, experience, the likes of Orsic that we brought in, you know, that signing for me is everything that the club needs right now. Someone with a bit of captaincy material about them, not to take that role off Prowse, but to be able to support him when times are tough, but also when times are going well as well, so that no one gets carried away. These young players in this squad are so exciting, but they've got a lot to learn. They haven't. You can't expect a lot of the characteristics that the squad, the club are going to need in this position in this season. You can't expect that from 18, 19, 20-year-olds. So bring in some, focus on characteristics. Whatever players they bring in are going to have quality. They just need a bit of experience and leadership and that sort of thing about them as well, I think.
Yeah, Dean, that's such an interesting point, isn't it, that Belvis makes there, approaching players with the right character and mentality as well, I suppose. But for you, what areas does Southampton need to strengthen before, or try to strengthen rather, before the window shuts in 10 minutes?
Well, firstly, I think Paul should be a coach, because it's I don't need to add any more than that. I would agree with everything that Paul said there. In terms of some experience coming into the group, I think is really, really important because of the young players we have. I think that's whether that experience comes in, whether they're going to play, whether they're going to have an impact from the bench, whether they can have an impact around the training ground when there's going to be ups and downs during the rest of the season, just to keep the place calm and to give the players some experience. But I think, a goal scorer is important. We need to add more goals to the team. We need to have more of a threat, an additional threat, whether that's coming off the bench or someone starting. The right-hand side has been a bit indifferent. It'll be interesting to see who plays there today, whether Adam Armstrong can fill that void there, and if he can get some goals from there, I think that would be great. But also maybe an additional, if we're going to play this formation, I think an additional holding midfield player. I think if you've got Lavia in there, who's a young player, an exceptional player, and we've missed Oreo Romeo, and I think if we had another holding midfield player that's experienced, that has the knowledge, knows how to play the role really, really well, will help defensively, will help keep more clean sheets, but then keep possession, play forward when you need to, keep the ball when you need to, and again that will help Prowse, and will Prowse then score more goals. So a striker and a centre midfield player would be really, really good, but I think the biggest thing, Paul's touched on it, if you can bring some experience into this group, it will help the younger players evolve even more.
We have got around 10 days to go until that window shuts, so hopefully a couple of players do come in. Now, final word, Paul, on the league table. A win today would see Southampton out of the relegation zone. Psychologically, for everyone, how big a boost would that be?
Yeah, that would be big, because, wins are great for confidence and everything, but if they're not changing your league position, it doesn't give you everything it could. A win today would carry on that momentum, carry on that confidence, and lifting out of the bottom three would just, it would just do so much for the group, but then also it would add to the insecurities of the teams around them. It looks like being 3 from 8 at the moment. Palace look a little bit too far off, but Forest, Leeds, Leicester, Wolves, Bournemouth, West Ham and Everton, 3 of those 7 are hopefully going down. And I think there are you're much better off now, like Southampton are going on this little run where, three wins in a row, going well in the cups. By the time, I think Leeds and Leicester are a couple of the games coming up very soon. Going into those games, if we can see Southampton out of the bottom 3, in a cup final maybe by that time as well, through in the FA Cup, let's have them all. Then, Southampton's confidence will be sky high. They'll be, continuing to learn under Nathan Jones. But those other clubs, they're, the likes of Bournemouth and Leicester, they had good runs earlier on in the season. They're having big wobbles and slumps now. So they are going to have big insecurities in their group. And they see a team like Southampton suddenly climbing up and looking good. That's not going to help them in the slightest. So I think it would be great from Southampton's point of view today, and doubly good because it would add to other clubs' problems.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, it certainly feels like we have turned a bit of a corner, doesn't it, Dean? So looking ahead to today's afternoon's match, what's your score prediction and how do you see this one going?
I'm excited, Kenzie. Like I say, I feel as though that hope, the team has brought that hope back and the excitement. We're here at St Mary's, so I'm always excited when I'm here. I'd love to see a clean sheet. I really, really would. I think that would help the momentum and the confidence of the players. The Aston Villa are a better team under the new manager, and they've picked up of late. The last away game they beat Tottenham 2-0. Sorry, Paul. So look, I think this will be a 2-0 Southampton today, and I'm looking forward to a continued performance from last week, especially in the second half. So a 2-0 Southampton win today.
Confident off camera over there.
I was about to say as well, don't rile Paul before we ask him for a score prediction. Hopefully you're feeling equally as positive today, Belvers.
No, I am. I think Unai Emery's teams tend to be a little bit safety first, and I'm delighted that Danny Ings isn't here to come and bite Southampton. I'm not delighted that he's gone to West Ham, but I look at them and I can see Aston Villa being denied today. I can see a clean sheet. And as far as goals, I was tempted by 2-0, but I'm not going the same as Dean.
Can't agree with me, Paul. Come on.
Yeah, I'll go more positive. I'll say 3-0.
Yeah, big score lines there. Well, Paul, Dean, thank you so much for joining us, and you'll be sticking around at full time and join us on the final whistle too. Well, around about 45 minutes to go before kick-off here at St Mary's between Southampton and Aston Villa. 3 points for the Saints will lift them out of the relegation zone and make it 4 wins on the bounce across all competitions. We'll all be back, as I said, on the final whistle with the post-match reaction and analysis. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you then.
Bye for now.